Ecclesiastes 2, 9 through 11 says this, "So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." This is the word of the Lord. You can be seated. Everyone, join me in welcoming our next gen director, Jeremy.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad to be with you guys this morning. Thanks for that welcome, college ministry. That was great. I'll pay you guys later. So like you said, I'm the next gen director here at Midtown. I get to spend a lot of time with our middle school, high school, and college students, getting to hang out with them, teach them, disciple them, and be just a part of that ministry. And it's been a blessing for me and my family. My wife's name is Jenna, and my two kids' name are Lee and Lo. They're right there on the screen, so everyone can do the collective awes now. They're so cute, right? And so, and we love them very much. We have a third baby on the way, going to come in November. So our life is very full, busy, messy, good, and hard, and we love it. We love it. And when the pastors first came to ask me to preach this morning, I was stoked. I was like, heck yeah, I'd love to do it. That was all before I knew the topic and knew the book. They were like, hey, you want to preach? Yes, gotcha. And the topic for the discussion this morning is something simple, light, easy. I'm the student's guy. They thought that they would just ease me in, right? And so they eased me in with a simple question: what's the meaning of life, right? Like, gotcha. I got it. So, last week, Jake started with that Henry David Thoreau quote, how some of us dreamt that our lives would turn out to be this grand palace. And then you get older, and maybe this hasn't happened for you yet, but eventually you get older and you realize, like, ooh, I built a woodshed, and it's a little shocking, and it didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. Or maybe it's this slow burn, and you realize, oh, there's some anxiety here. This isn't what I wanted it to be. This isn't what I thought it would be. Many of us at some point have that moment, the midlife, the quarter life crisis, the midlife malaise. Whether we're 20, 40, 60, don't raise your hand if you're older than that. I won't make you do that. And we wonder whether anything we've done up to this point really matters. What's the point of all of this? Because we ask ourselves, why is there suffering? Why does evil seem to win sometimes? And even in the good moments, the promotions, the graduations, the wins, why does it still feel like something is missing? And in order to fill those voids, in order to fill what's missing, pretty much everyone in the world is experimenting. We're testing different things to see what they do for us. We're testing wealth, indulgence, sex and sexuality, possessions, comfort, relationships, all to see how they might fulfill us, how they might make us feel whole, and how they might give life a little more meaning to deal with the seemingly meaninglessness of life that we felt and that Solomon talked about last week. And that's what this book's all about. That's what the book of Ecclesiastes is all about. Solomon, the wisest man to ever live, isn't some bitter old man shaking his fists at the sky in old age. Instead, he's more like a seasoned guide who's already done and taken every road that we could possibly imagine and to travel in. And in response to that feeling that I mentioned, that feeling of life feeling like it's something is missing, Solomon underwent his own experiment. He just had the resources and freedom to chase any of those things to the level of quality and quantity that most of us could only dream of. So look at what Solomon says in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1. He said, I said in my heart, come now, I will test. Pay attention to that word, because Solomon's telling us what he's about to do for the next several verses. He says, I will test you with pleasure to enjoy yourself. Solomon examined some of the most common places that we go to looking for meaning. And if anyone was qualified to speak on these things, it was Solomon. He wasn't just throwing out armchair opinions on it. He actually lived it. He actually had everything he could imagine. He was the son of David, the king of Israel during the golden age. In 1 Kings chapter 3, God blessed him with unparalleled honor, wisdom, unmatched wealth. He rebuilt cities. He established major trade routes. And he launched an entire shipping empire. In one journey, he brought home 17 tons of gold from a trade expedition. I'm really proud when I bring my wife a Diet Coke on the way home from work, right? 1 Kings chapter 10 says that silver was considered so common in Jerusalem that it was as nothing. His fame spread internationally. Kings and queens of other nations came just to see, is it real? Is this true? And if anyone had the means and the opportunity to find satisfaction under the sun, it was Solomon. So we're going to dive in. We're going to listen to how the preacher's experiment went, because what he has to say can actually bring surprising clarity, surprising joy, even freedom in our lives if we're willing to let some of our bubbles burst and learn what really lasts. So if you would, go ahead and open your Bibles to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. If you don't have a Bible with you, we've got Bibles on the end of the aisle, and if you're using one of those, we'll be on page 319. While you're turning there, I'll pray. Jesus, thank you for this morning. Lord, thank you for those who've gone before us, both thousands of years ago and even the generation before us. Thank you for those that are willing to speak wisdom in our lives based on their experience. God, I pray that we would hear your word, that we would soften our hearts, and that we would learn from you today. We pray all these things in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, so his first test, meaning through pleasure. Ecclesiastes 2, starting at verse 1. I said in my heart, come now, I'll test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this was also vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life. So we've all been to a party before, right? Like whether it's a birthday party or maybe a graduation party recently or a wedding or something like that. If you went to a preschool like my son's, you have a party like every other hour, and it's great, right? Like, and if you haven't been to a party, I'll throw you one. Come talk to me afterwards. We'll get you a good party. But all of us have been to one. I've been to a few recently. I went to some graduation parties over the last week, and you know, the parties were really nice. They were well thought out. The company was great. Some of you in this room, I got to hang out with you. But something about those parties, one thing is there were clearly, no offense, budget considerations. They were great parties. Hopefully I don't offend anyone saying that, but they didn't spend all the money in the world on those parties. In fact, the nicest wedding that I've been to didn't even have that kind of great extravagance. Because also I used to live in the mountains and they wore blue jeans to weddings. So like, it's fine. Like that, it was cool. But Solomon was in a different category with parties because he had the ability to spend as much as he wanted to on any celebration. I want to reiterate the difference between him and us when it comes to testing pleasure. Solomon can actually afford to put the pleasures of wealth and indulgence to the test. By the end of his life, his buying power, adjusted to today's numbers, is estimated at the lowest to be about $680 billion. More than the richest people in the world. And the highest amount, $2 trillion. More than Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg combined. He had more than enough money to pay however many Nate Bargatskys you want to put in his house to entertain him, to make him laugh all day. And laughter generally is a sign of enjoying ourselves, of taking pleasure. A good laugh, it can do our hearts really good. Sometimes we're frustrated or anxious or angry or sad, and a joke hits just right and it lifts us out, right? I have some friends who are law enforcement. I've talked to them before, and they said sometimes like the job can be so hard, traumatic on the field that like sometimes we have to joke. Sometimes it can be even dark humor. And this is some of what Solomon's going after. And at the end of the day, laughter doesn't deal with the deepest questions of our heart. His conclusion about laughter, he said later in chapter 7, he says, laughter is mad, laughter is foolishness. So then he shifts to something else in verse 3. He has an interesting point. Solomon says, I considered with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom. And so I don't think what he's talking about here is drunkenness, right? Because he says, I was still working through this with wisdom. I knew what I was doing. I was aware of what I was doing to myself. I think what it's more so talking about, and I wouldn't dare try to say the word for this. It starts with an S. I would embarrass myself, like a sommelier or something like that, right? Like a wine connoisseur, right? And I think that's more, I know how to say it. That was a good joke, right? Haha. So either way, whether his wine drinking was marked by sophistication or inebriation, Solomon was looking for meaning in life through that consumption of alcohol. And this was all due to the realization that our lives are short. He said, till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few years of their life. He couldn't get his finiteness out of his mind, so that's what he was looking for. So when the pleasures of laughter, parties, alcohol didn't do it for him, he moves on to the next thing, his second test. Meaning through possessions. He said, I made great works. In verse 4, I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees. So Solomon comes to his stuff. He's already had success governing an entire country, so he's moved on to creating a place where he could rule and govern over his own happiness, right? And so he built parks, vineyards, all kinds of fruit trees, and not like the 3 apple trees that I planted that still haven't gotten apples yet. He planted actual block-sized forests, city block-sized cultivated land, and he made pools, plural pools, just to water all of the gardens in the forests that he designed. He wasn't just building all of this for utility, he was crafting beauty. Right? He is surrounding himself with nature, trying to manufacture peace and meaning through the natural world. And while, listen, there's something deeply, deeply good about being in nature. I love it. It connects me to the Lord more than most things do. I love being on the river. I love being in the woods. But even God's creation, even that can't ultimately satisfy me when it's disconnected from God himself, right? And the indicator of Solomon's wealth and ambition here, his ability to do all this, is everything he wrote was plural. Houses, vineyards, gardens, parks, trees, pools, all for him. Let's be real. Some of us are still just trying to get one pool, right? Like I got a kiddie pool, but I'd really like to upgrade that some one day, right? So none of that worked for him. So he moves on to his third test, meaning through comfort. Look at verse 7. I bought male and female slaves, and I had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delights of the sons of man. So Solomon's saying here, I have unlimited amounts of people ready at a moment's notice to do my wish at their command. And so he may have figured to himself, if I never have to lift a finger for myself again, maybe that would deal with the ache, right? With all these servants at his beck and call, he didn't have to do anything he didn't want to do. Anything unpleasant, anything annoying or inconvenient. He didn't have to clean up the kitchen after dinner. He didn't have to pick up after the kids. He didn't have to take out the trash. He didn't have to wash the car. He didn't have to mow the lawn. He didn't have to clean behind the oven. No one does that, but he didn't have to, right? Go home, check behind your oven, right? He built a world where he could avoid pain. He built a world where he could avoid frustration and discomfort. But this wasn't just about convenience. It was about control. It was about trying to find peace through the absence of struggle in his life. And we do the same thing. We chase comfort like it's the ultimate goal in life. If we can just keep the house at the right temperature, if we can get the kids to behave in Target, if we can avoid hard conversations, if we can DoorDash dinner and binge Netflix for the next 2 to 4 hours, maybe we'll finally feel okay. Maybe that'll hide that ache. And comfort becomes the counterfeit promise. So if I don't have to feel stress or pain or discomfort, that's going to take care of this ache. That's the answer, but it's a lie. The absence of discomfort isn't the presence of peace. You can build an entire life padded with ease and still feel empty. Solomon did, and it left him hollow. But to be fair, I want to be fair here. The reality is having more can be good. If it can ease burdens, it can bring moments of brief happiness. It can offer real blessings. For those who are struggling financially, like really struggling to meet needs, pay bills, take care of their family, having more is actually a gift of survival. But even so, more still can't satisfy the deepest longings of the heart. Think back 10 to 15 years. Think however old you were, what did you have in your mind that you wanted then, that you actually have now, that you used to think, if I just had this, it's going to take care of everything. Like, it's going to make it so much better. Sure, it's not everything, but my life would be so much better if I had this. And now, what's the thing on your mind right now? That it feels like it's that final missing piece, the one thing that if you just had it, it would fix that tension, ease that pressure in your life. We all feel that pull. And more can help, but it doesn't complete us, because more stuff won't help us find meaning in life. It can't answer the deepest questions in our hearts. And neither can this last test. This last test, the fourth one, meaning through other people. Let's look again at that second part of verse 8. It said, I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delights of the sons of man. Concubines were women who lived with Solomon, but were not married to him. Generally speaking, they were women brought to Solomon for the sole purpose of sex without any of the work of an actual relationship. And it wasn't just a handful of women. 1 Kings 11 tells us he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, 1,000 women, and 1,000 relationships designed to meet his needs, his desires, and his loneliness. Solomon learned that sex doesn't satisfy our ultimate needs for meaning. It's why even in committed marriages, good, healthy marriages, people can still feel unmet, unseen, even empty. It's why pornography is such a powerful and painful trap that leaves people feeling emptier, not fuller. And if you've gone through our recovery program, if you've been there, some of this idea will sound familiar to you, right? Like if you're not this person, and you maybe you don't struggle with this, or maybe you know someone who does in your life, and you're in this room, if you know someone who does, you may not realize what they're looking for, what you're looking for when you go to something like pornography is intimacy and connection. But whether getting that, instead of getting that, you end up even more isolated. If it rewires your brain to crave connection without vulnerability. It creates a false reality where desire is met without cost, where no one can reject you and no one needs you. But in the end, it doesn't love you back. It never will. And yet the addiction pulls so many back in again and again because they're looking for satisfaction in something deep inside of them. They come back hoping this time it'll take care of it. This time it'll silence the ache. This time it'll finally I'll be done. But it can't, because it actually only leaves shame and disconnection and deeper loneliness than before. And if that's your story, you're not alone and you're not too far gone. And you also need to know you're not going to be healed by hiding. You will not find peace by going deeper into isolation. You were made for more than instant gratification. All of us were. You weren't made to hide in the shadows or settle for pixelated comfort. You're made for communion. You're made to be fully known and deeply loved. And that kind of connection will only be found in the presence of God and in the safety of honest, gospel-centered community. And this isn't just the case. Hear me, this is not the case just for sex and pornography, but relationships with other people across the board. Other people can't give us ultimate meaning, in part because they're trying to do the same thing. They're a fallible person too. They're trying to figure out meaning in their life just like you and me. And here's the thing. Relationships are a good gift from God. Friendship is good. Family is good. Community, so good. And there's so much satisfaction that can be found in them because it's part of how God wired us. But if we expect any of them to ultimately fulfill us, we'll end up disappointed and disillusioned. If you believe marriage will complete you, if you're waiting for the one, and that'll take care of everything, it won't. If the feeling of married, being loved by another person will make all this make sense, you're going to be left wanting, and eventually, when you get it, you'll realize this doesn't do what I thought it should do. Because it's all based on all of this, all relationship with the people are all based on feelings and circumstance. Jake talked about this last week. He said, circumstance and feelings, while helpful, make for a terrible anchor for your soul. Your life becomes a perpetual roller coaster because it's dependent upon how your circumstances make you feel. Even in the best relationships, there will still be moments of tension, longing, and even loneliness. And parents, consider your family, consider your children. If you're putting your hope, if you're putting your meaning in your relationship with them and their lives and their success and all of their well-being, it's gonna fall short. And it's not fair to put that meaning in them. I know that's a really hard thing to acknowledge because as parents, we give so much of our lives to our kids. We've given everything to them. If you try to find meaning in your friendships, in your life group, in your relationship with a best friend, in a dating relationship, in your spouse, even in your ability to disciple and mentor other people, it's not going to hold up. It's going to let you down. Not because those things are bad, but because they were never meant to carry the weight of your soul. No human, friend, spouse, child, or community can bear that weight because they weren't meant to, nor will the most ideal, satisfying sex life imaginable. No amount of romance, no amount of chemistry, no amount of connection, none of these things are the answer to the meaning of life. So what is Solomon's conclusion at the end of his experiment? Where did having all of this, everything he wanted, actually get him? Here's his big conclusion at the end of this passage, starting in verse 9. It says, "So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and a striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." We can only imagine what it would be like to actually have everything our eyes desired. But the conclusion that Solomon came to after actually getting everything he wanted to imagine is this. He said, I hated life. I hated life. Later on in verse 17, he says, I hated life because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and a striving after the wind. He's a trillionaire who told us in verse 10, anything he wanted, he could have. Any experience he wanted to chase after. Literally, kings of the earth were coming to him to try to win his favor and his attention. And all he could come up with at the end of this experiment was, I hate this. I hate my life. And here's the thing. Me and you may not be kings or trillionaires, but we're still running the same experiment. My question for us this morning is, what test are you running right now? What's the thing that you're chasing after that will finally make life feel full? If I followed you online for a week, I could probably tell. Your algorithm, Facebook already knows. Instagram already knows. TikTok, they're aware. Look at the ads you're seeing. If I looked at your Amazon suggestions, your social feeds, your search history, your calendar, I could probably figure out what test you're running. And it's not just us. I know what tests your kids are running too, because I'm around them enough to hear it and see it. Some are chasing it through experiences. Some, the perfect day, the next social post, the trendiest activity for likes and recognition. Many of them want a life worth posting about. But Solomon already had all the experiences money could buy, and it said it didn't do it for me. Not to mention, Gen Z I'm talking to some people in this room, you guys have never known life without smartphones. Gen Z was raised with screens in their pockets, games at their fingertips, infinite scrolling to escape anything uncomfortable. But even Solomon filled his palace with the instant gratification of the day, gestures, on-demand entertainment, music, and he was left hating what he had. The tests are different on the surface, but the search is the exact same. Just like Solomon, we're all looking for meaning in things that were never meant to give it. And the question isn't whether or not you're running a test. It's whether you're willing to admit the results of it. And look, listen, hear me say this, please. The point of this isn't to shame anyone from desiring good things. Solomon doesn't say pleasure is evil. He says it just can't hold the weight of your soul. And that's why one of the most important pieces of wisdom from this passage is that part of the power to enjoy is to hold these things open-handed. The lesson for us, if we pause right here, we need to recognize that this world does not have what you need for fulfillment. What I need for peace in my life isn't going to come from anything that this world can provide. Nothing. There's not a group of people, not a group of friends, that if they accept you and love you enough, that will make you feel good enough. There's not enough money that if you reach the level of wealth will make you feel satisfied. And there's not enough charity that if you give enough away will actually make your heart whole. And don't just take it from me. Tell me the year and I'll give you a celebrity from that year admitting the exact same thing. Tom Brady, after he won 3 Super Bowls, we've said this before, he said, there's got to be more than this. Will Smith, last year in an interview, the quote's going to be up on the screen, it's a long one, he said, the first half of my life, it was gather, gather, gather. And the second half of my life has been to give, give, give. But what happens is you just realize none of it can make you happy once you buy everything you want and there's nothing left on earth that you want to buy. I just wish that was a gift that everyone could have because there's nothing material can do to satisfy you. It's like drinking salt water. I'm in that phase of my life when you realize that no relationship, no money, no kids, there's literally nothing that can make you happy. That is a sad conclusion. Countless other celebrities and other people, including Solomon, all echo the same truth. Success and wealth and pleasure doesn't fill the void. A study done in 2010 it was recently actually updated in 2021. It was done by a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, so you know it's reliable. Found that emotional well-being, your day-to-day sense of happiness and peace, plateaus once your income reaches about $75,000 to $90,000. In other words, once your basic needs are met and you have a little bit of margin, more money doesn't actually make you more emotionally healthy. And you could double and triple your income, but you won't double and triple your joy. It actually does the opposite. You look at a book called The Progress Paradox, written by a man named Greg Easterbrook. It looks at about 30 years of research that shows the progression of improved life in the Western world. And it says that the progression has actually resulted in more men and women being less happy and less fulfilled than previous generations. As the philosopher poet from the late 20th century, Notorious B.I.G. said, "Mo money, mo problems." What Solomon is saying is that in poverty and in wealth, in abundance and in nothingness, you're not going to find the peace within yourself or within this world. You just can't. And I'll tell you right now, we live in a world that lies to our sons and daughters and tries to convince them that the world offers them what they need. Anything you see directed at our students on social media is telling them that they can find fulfillment, they can find meaning outside of the things of God. And more followers, more likes, more money, whatever it takes to show people that you have the life that they want, that's going to fill you. According to a study done by the Barna Group, it's a polling and research company that works from a biblical worldview, says that over 2/3 of Gen Z students believe that, quote, having professional success and financial wealth was the most important thing to their sense of self. This came out among other important things like friends, family, religious background, even the hobbies of Gen Z are being replaced instead by side hustles. Everything's another way to make money. You know the modern day heroes of our kids? Some of you guys may know this, YouTubers. There's a lot of kids that think of that as their dream job. Like, if I could do that. Sounds a little silly, but in reality, it's a mix of things that Solomon's talking about. Fame, money, approval, likes. The problem is that oftentimes as adults, we never really grow out of that. We're believing similar lies. A bigger house, a newer car, a bigger paycheck, better advancement. These things are all normal in life. They're not inherently wrong in and of themselves. Listen to me say this. It's normal for everyone to get a job, work hard, buy a house, start a family, then go get that promotion, get a raise, get your bigger house, buy the nicer car so that your kids and wife don't end up on the side of the road broken down and you have to drive and go get them. Build the addition. You need somewhere for that baby to sleep or to play pool, like some people do, right? But to believe, go on the nice vacation. That's fine. That's good. It's summertime. But to believe any of these things will somehow fix all your problems and give your life the meaning and fulfillment that you've been looking for is missing the mark. Honestly, growing up, I never thought, if you would ask 20, 22, 25, 27-year-old Jeremy, I never would have thought that I'd have a feeling of envy or wanting someone else's stuff. I thought, I'm fine, man, no big deal. And then Jen and I got into flipping our homes and buying a home that was clearly built in the previous century and trying to like make people believe it wasn't. Like, that was really fun. We thought we were regular old Chip and Joanna Gaines. Not as funny. But we used to love it. We used to really enjoy it. We don't now. We have kids. But it was fun. But I'll tell you, the creeping feeling that I don't like that's coming up in my life, that I'm having to resist and fight against, is the desire for that bigger or that nicer house. Or that at least one that wasn't from the 40s or 50s that has cast iron pipes. But really, like, it is a strange, uncomfortable feeling that I'm having to resist and push against. And I've been wrestling with it. And what Solomon's trying to tell me, what he's trying to tell all of us, is that stuff is not going to cut it. It's not going to satisfy you. It can't. He's saying, I've had everything, and it's not going to do it for you. So back to our main question. What's the point of all this? What's the meaning of life? The meaning of life is to enjoy God and the world that he has made and give him the recognition he is worthy of forever. I'll read that again. The meaning of life is to enjoy God and the world that he has made and give him the recognition that he is worthy of forever. God has given us this life as a gift. There are lots of things in life that are seemingly random, meaningless, frustrating, unfair. And the fact that life is a gift doesn't negate those things. There are certainly hard, unfair things in life. But life being a gift does give us hope. It allows us to actually have some enjoyment in simple things. Because of that, we can take enjoyment in a good meal or a paycheck and be thankful for it, a vacation and enjoy every single minute of it. We can enjoy it, but it's not going to sustain us. But life is a gift. And the reason life can be looked at as a gift is because of what Jesus has done for us, right? Your life, if you're in Christ, your life is a gift that has been purchased and given to you by God. If you're in Jesus, if you know Jesus, if you have a relationship with him, you are not your own. You're bought with a price. He purchased your life with his when he went and died on the cross. And he's given your life back to you to enjoy as it should be enjoyed, seeing that he is enough. Jesus is enough. He saved you. And if you don't know Jesus, if you're in this room and you haven't submitted to him, you're not following him, hear me tell you now, please, there is nothing in all of the world that will fill the ache in your heart. None of these other things can. And once we grasp that, once we truly grasp it and build our lives around what's beyond the sun, not under it, we'll realize that we don't need our possessions to save us. We don't need relationships to save us. We don't need comfort to save us. We don't need sex, money, success, alcohol, laughter, or possessions to save us. They can't, but Jesus can, and he has. And he's offering that to all of us this morning. The main point of the entire book of Ecclesiastes is hopeful and joyful, not dreadful and depressing. Your life is a gift from God to be experienced and enjoyed and appreciated. Because of Jesus, we can truly enjoy all of these things that Solomon talked about this morning. Because we know that they can't give us ultimate satisfaction. They're just a good part of the life that God has given us to live. Only Jesus brings ultimate satisfaction. Let's pray.